There is a form for everything. A form for the living. A form for the dead. And I learned this on a Tuesday in a building they had already condemned. A form for the people who are neither. I am the man they sent to count them. And on the last line of the last sheet, under the words household members present tonight, they had already written my name, my badge number, and the exact minute I had not yet knocked. My job was the simplest job in the world. I knocked on doors. I asked how many people lived behind them. I wrote the number down. Most of the city had been counted by spring, but there was one building on the east side rolls that came back unfinished every single decade. Not refused, not vacant. Unfinished, like the men sent to count it, had simply stopped halfway up the stairs and never come back to explain why. Number 11, Ashfield Row. 6 floors of brown brick, condemned twice, never demolished. The kind of building where the windows are dark, but the dark has a texture to it. Like something is standing just behind the glass, holding very still. My supervisor handed me the assignment and would not meet my eyes. She said, just finish the floors the others couldn't. Get the head count. Don't go back to verify anything. I asked her why anyone would need to verify a head count. She said, you'll understand when you read the old sheets. So, that night before I went, I read the old sheets. The records office kept every census ever taken in this city, going back 200 years. Ledgers, then index cards, then microfilm, then the database. I pulled everything for number 11, Ashfield Row. 5 of the 6 floors were ordinary. Tenants came and went. Families grew, shrank, moved away, died. Names changed every decade the way names are supposed to. Unit 6B did not change. In the most recent count, Unit 6B listed 4 people. A man, a woman, a boy, and an older woman. I wrote down the 4 names. Then I checked the count before that. The same 4 names. And the one before that, the same 4. And the one before that. The same family of 4. Same names, same ages, appeared in Unit 6B in every census taken at that address. Going back to 1824, I told myself it was a clerical habit. A lazy enumerator copying the previous sheet. It happens. But then I noticed the thing that made me put my coffee down and not pick it up again for a long time. The ink. Ink ages. Everyone knows this without thinking about it. Old ink browns. It fades. It flakes. It sinks into the paper and turns the color of weak tea. The oldest entries in any ledger are always the faintest. In the Unit 6B records, it was backwards. The most recent count, the one from this decade, was written in ink, so faded I could barely read it. Grey, ghostly, like it had been sitting in the sun for a century. And the 1824 entry, the oldest one 200 years down, was crisp, black, wet looking, as if someone had written it that morning. The further back in time I went, the fresher the ink got. As though the record of these 4 people was not aging away from me. It was aging toward me, growing newer as it grew older, coming closer. I sat there and did the arithmetic that my supervisor had told me not to do. If the same 4 people had been counted in that unit since 1824 and never aged a day, then they had watched 200 years of census workers climb those stairs, knock on their door, write down their 4 names, and leave. And not one of those workers had ever written down the only fact that mattered, that the 4 people behind the door of 6B were not getting any older, and every single counter who'd gone up there had come back down and finished every floor. Except that one. I could have stopped. I want you to know I considered it. I sat in that records room until 2 in the morning. And I considered simply marking the building complete and never going at all. But I'd been a counter for 19 years. And the counter has one belief, one article of faith that holds the whole job together. Everyone gets counted exactly once. The living, the newborn, the dying, the man in the alley, the woman who won't open the chain. Everyone once. These 4 had been counted 200 times, which is the same mathematically, as never having been counted at all. And I could not let that stand. So I went at 3 in the morning, which is when the building's old sheet said every prior count had reached the 6th floor. I don't know why they all reached it at the same hour. I think now that the building chooses the hour, not the counter. The stairwell smelled of cold stone and something sweeter underneath. Wax maybe. Or lilies. The smell of a room kept for a body that hasn't arrived yet. Floors 1 through 5 I counted properly. Real people behind real doors. A man who couldn't sleep. A woman with 3 children and no husband on the form. An old couple who offered me tea. Ordinary. Alive. Aging. And then I reached the 6th floor. And there was only one door. The door of 6B was warm. I felt it before I knocked. Heat coming off the wood. Like there was a fire on the other side. There is no gas on the 6th floor of number 11. Ashfield Row. It was condemned in 1960. There has been no fire in that building for 65 years. I knocked, and the door opened before my knuckles left the wood, as though someone had been standing behind it, with their hand already on the latch, for a very long time. Inside, the apartment was warm and golden and full. Furniture I'd only seen in old photographs. A fire that I just told you couldn't exist, burning low in a grate. And 4 people sitting very comfortably, as if they had been expecting company, and had set out the chairs. A man, maybe 40, a woman beside him. A boy of about 10 on the floor. And an older woman in the corner in a high-backed chair, who did not look at me, because she was already writing. "Census," I said. My voice came out smaller than I wanted. I just need a count of the household. The man smiled at me. A kind smile. A patient smile. The smile of someone who has heard the same sentence said to him every 10 years for 2 centuries. "We know," he said. "We've been counting too." The man told me to sit. I did not sit. I asked the 4 questions a counter asks, in the order we're trained to ask them. How many people live at this address? Their names, their ages. Whether anyone was present tonight who does not usually live here. The boy answered, in a voice far too even for a child. 4, he said, always 4, the same 4. And he recited the names. The same 4 names I traced back to 1824. In the same order. Then I asked the ages, and the old woman in the corner stopped writing. For the first time, she looked up at me. And she said, "We don't have ages. We have a number. And the number is how many have come up the stairs and counted us. And gone back down. You'll be on the form," she said. Same as the rest. She held out a census sheet. My sheet. The exact form clipped to my own board. I checked. It was still on my board. And it was also in her hand. 2 of the same sheet. 1 blank. 1 filled. On her copy, every field was complete. The 4 names. And below them, on the line marked household members present tonight, there was a 5th entry, in ink so black and so wet. It had not yet dried. It was my full name, my badge number, my title, and a timestamp, 3:04 in the morning. The exact minute I had knocked, written by her, before I arrived. I understood it then, all at once, the way you understand a thing you've actually known for hours. Every census ever taken had reached this door. Every counter had asked the 4 questions, and every counter had written down 4. 4 names. Move on. Finish the building. Except they never did finish the building, did they? The sheets always came back unfinished, because the counters never went back down. The household of 6B was never hidden by lies. It was hidden by the form itself. A census records the living, and it records them once. And once a thing is on the form, no one ever questions it again. That is the whole power of the count. It tells you what is real and then forbids you to check. 4 people listed at this address, in every record for 200 years. No clerk ever flagged it. No supervisor ever climbed the stairs, because the form said they were ordinary. And the form is the thing we believe instead of looking. The building didn't hide them from the count. The count hid them. The count hid them from us. And every 10 years it took the one person who came close enough to notice the counter, and it added him to the 4. So that the next sheet would still say 4. And the body that did the noticing would never go back down to tell anyone. 200 years, 20 censuses, 20 counters who climbed to the 6th floor and were entered on the form as present tonight. And then never present anywhere else again. I did the only thing left to me. I tried to break the form. I took my own blank sheet off my board and I wrote in the household total myself. Not 4. I wrote 0. Because if no one is on the form, I thought, then There is nothing here to be added to. The man watched me do it, still smiling, still patient. When I finished, he said, very gently, "That is not your sheet anymore." I looked down. The 0 I had written was already fading, going grey, going ghostly. The way the most recent census entry had been ghostly, aging in front of me a decade a second. And underneath it, rising up through the paper in fresh wet black, was the number 5. In a hand that was not mine. The older woman set down her pen. "It is done," she said. "You've been counted. You were always going to be counted. You're the one who finally came up to check the arithmetic." We do love it when one of you checks the arithmetic. I ran. I want to be clear that I ran. Down 5 flights, as fast as a man can run. And the doors I passed. 4B, 3C, 2A. The doors with the coughing and the babies and the radios. Every one of them was silent now. And every one of them was warm. And from under every one of them came a thin line of golden firelight. I made it to the street. I want to believe I made it to the street. But here is the thing about being counted. Once you are on the form, you are accounted for. You are settled, resolved. The system has you, and the system stops looking. I went back to the records office that morning to report all of it. My supervisor was at her desk. I said her name. She did not look up. I said it again. I put my hand on her desk. She reached past my hand for a pen, as though the hand were not there. So I pulled the file. Number 11, Ashfield Row. Unit 6B, the most recent count. The one I had filed myself hours before. It listed 5 names now. The 4 I traced to 1824. And mine in ink already fading to grey. Already aging away from whoever reads it next. Already getting ready to be the old entry. The faint one. The one that will look freshest to the next counter 10 years from now. Who climbs the stairs to check the arithmetic? The fire on the 6th floor is warm. The chairs are set out. There are 5 of us now. And we are waiting for the one who comes to make us 6. If a man with a clipboard ever knocks on your door and asks how many people live there, answer him honestly, tell him the true number. But before he leaves, ask to see the sheet. Look at the line where it says present tonight and run your eye down the ink. If the oldest names look the freshest. If the writing gets blacker and wetter the further back it goes, then you are not being counted. You are being added. And there is one line left on the form. And it is the shape of your name. Sleep well. You'll be counted before morning. If this kept you in your chair, subscribe. There are other buildings on the route that nobody ever finished counting.